Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Well, today we're especially privileged. My guest is the Honorable Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Good morning, Alhaji Lai.
Mr. Folarin, good morning.
It's been quite a while.
It's been a while.
In fact, it's the first time since our incident.
Since the unfortunate incident of the Inferno.
Of the Inferno.
Yes, very. But I came here to pay a visit.
Yes. It's just that not on air. But this is the first on air.
On air. Yes.
So I should say compliments of the season. It's go secret, you know.
At all. So thank you very much. Thank you very
Indeed. But there's serious business at hand because arguably our nation is in a kind of a serious, we're in a serious mood. There's so many things that really are calling for our attention. So it's just as well that we have you here. We have you for the entire hour. And so I'd better get to it. Let me start with global NGOs. And I'm thinking about Transparency International, and I'm also thinking about Amnesty International. Now, let me take Amnesty International first. They, as you no doubt must know, have actually put out a statement accusing the federal government of a cover-up during the whole NSAS protest and the results that have been announced. I know you engaged with them on an international level once. I think it was on you engaged with CNN.
Yes.
Now, Amnesty International is accusing the federal government of unbecoming behavior.
Mr. Folarin, I think Amnesty International is gradually becoming an irritant with his disinformation and double standard. And at times, I begin to wonder whether the raison d'etre of Amnesty International is really not to destabilize Nigeria. Otherwise, how do we explain their activities in Nigeria? In the first instance, Amnesty International, like most of these other groups, have refused to proffer evidence that indeed people were shot dead at the Lekki toll gate on the 22nd of October 2020. We challenge Amnesty International, if it has any proof, to please come forward with such proof. Names, addresses, and convincing evidence that such people were killed at the toll gate. The truth of the matter is that a coterie of NGOs led by Amnesty International have been dispensing fake news about what transpired at the toll gate. And if Amnesty International has any information, I think they should come forward.
Now, Honorable Minister, are they, in your opinion, are they exaggerating the case or is it the official position that not one life was lost as a result of the incident where government broke up the protest?
Mr. Folarin, the best way and the most transparent manner to find out whether indeed lives were lost at the toll gate on the 22nd of October 2020 is what the Lagos State government is doing, setting up a panel of inquiry, inviting anybody who had been a victim of the defunct SARS brutality, or anybody who has been a victim of extrajudicial killing to come forward. More than 100 days after, we're yet to see anybody say, my son or my daughter or my ward went to the toll gate and didn't come back. And this is still on. And clearly, you see, when you look at Transparency International, they have absolutely no respect.
Well, Amnesty International, for the moment.
If I talk about Amnesty International, they have absolutely no respect. even for our own judicial system. Otherwise, why can't they go and testify? Why is Amnesty International arriving at baseless conclusions even before the panel has concluded its job? You see, what I see is that when it comes to human rights violation, Amnesty International has two sets of rules. One for Nigeria and other developing countries, and one for the developed part of the world. Look, otherwise, how do you explain that when on January 6th, some people went to invade Capitol Hill, the American authorities today are searching, arresting, and trying those who went to invade Capitol Hill. And we have not had any word or any statement, or any complaint from Amnesty International. Whereas, when the Nigerian authorities started to arrest those hoodlums or those who participated in the killing of 37 policemen, 6 soldiers were responsible for arson, destruction of life and property at a scale never witnessed in Nigeria before. Amnesty International found its voice. So when it is in America, they are domestic terrorists. When it's in Nigeria, they are innocent protesters. You see, I think Amnesty International should mind its business.
Okay.
And stop this double standard.
Okay. I wonder if, first of all, you are the Honorable Minister, and that really means that you speak for the government, and information that we get from you, one should be able to run with that. Now, when some nationals themselves, that is Nigerians, are actually, contributing to the debate that, look, all is not well in the state of Denmark, or shall I say in the state of Lagos, in that it's not the official line that we're getting, that indeed there were losses, there were fatalities. Now, I want to link that as to, because you asked the question, why the double standard from Amnesty International? Well, Transparency International, as you know...
I'm coming to that one later.
Well, I was going to say that they are saying that the second most corrupt country in West Africa. Could it be that because they... If these suppositions that we're putting up are right, but because they fear of this kind of reputation that is being put out there by, another organization.
Don't let's mix issues. You ask a question which is very, very important. That how come that even the local media joined in this fake news that people were massacred at the toll gate. You see, a long time
ago... we on our station, we question the word massacre, because one or two or three cannot be seen to be a massacre.
Fine. Now, a long time ago, we warned Nigerians, the entire world, that fake news and disinformation would be the biggest threat to national unity. Now, what happened during the answers was that the social media platforms were abused to dispense fake news. And nobody bothered to verify these stories. Even an otherwise credible organization like CNN fell for the same. Now, as we speak today, nobody has come forward to produce bodies of people that were killed at the toll gate. Let's even assume, without conceding, that those bodies, as they claim, were packed up by the military and thrown to the lagoon. What about the parents? What about the relations? In 21st century, this cannot happen. So honestly, we stand by what we said. If there can't be any cover-up.
Okay.
If anybody has any information, any proof, please let them come forward. But they started with 78. Before even the Amnesty International started at 12. DJ Switch said she was streaming live. Where are the relations of those people that got killed? So look, there's no doubt about it. If we are transparent, we are open. And that's why we allowed the inquiry to be televised live. So if you have anything to say, there's no cover-up.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
And I recall that when your office had engaged CNN,
Yes.
and they adjusted their position slightly, but largely said they were standing by their reporting.
Well, the matter is not over yet.
Okay.
I can assure you. See, because you cannot, as a credible platform, be dispensing fake news, relying on unverified social media reports. And I'm glad that the same CNN, when a few months later, the same thing occurred in Capitol Hill, changed their tone. The same CNN that accused us of stifling the media did not say anything when Instagram and other social media platforms suspended the then president of the US.
And Twitter. In fact, Twitter led the whole pack.
Now, we have had nothing from CNN since then. Now, the same CNN that described what the bloodless massacre at the toll gate, that described the NSAS protest as a massacre in quote, came around to say what happened in Capitol was, was an insurrection. This is the double standard we're talking about. And until developing countries like Nigeria continue to speak out and call CNN and other people, other organizations out, for so long we will be the whipping boy of the entire international community.
Okay. Because I also want to talk about Transparency International. Yes. They have come out with their report and not flattering, actually saying we're second from the bottom. In other words, I think like the second most corrupt country in West Africa. Your comments on that? What do they base all of these things on?
You see, Mr. Fulani, it's important to state from the outset that the recently released rating of TI CPI on Nigeria is not a true reflection of the giant, steps the government is taking in its war against corruption.
Okay.
It does not reflect the various measures the government has put in place, especially in the area of corruption prevention and also building integrity systems. Well, in 2019, we had an also unflattering rating by the Transparency International. We studied what was responsible for that low rating and realized that almost up to 40% of the survey indices that led to that low rating was from the ease of doing business.
Okay.
So the federal government, through its PEBEC, the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Council, focused its attention on how to remove bottlenecks in the ease of doing business, particularly in the areas of port reforms. Now, it might take a few months, a year or two, for what the federal government is doing in those areas to show results. But clearly, we've embarked on a two-pronged approach. One, how do you prevent corruption? Two, how do we build integrity system? Thirdly, we've been able to identify that all the 40% of our problem is actually in the area of ease of doing business. Bottlenecks, bureaucratic bottlenecks. So we have done that. Now we're making a lot of headway. We've published the National Port, Program Manual to ease the ease of doing business. Then we realize also that part of the problem we have is that we need to also update our data and retrieval system so that we will not be underreported in areas where we are making progress. Because don't forget that even in the midst of this pandemic, federal government is not resting on its oars in its strive to institute anti-corruption measures. You will recall that late last year, the ICPC launched the National Ethics Policy, which is actually aimed at a kind of moral reorientation for Nigeria, starting from the children, starting from schools. The ICPC also last year launched and triggered off the Code of Conduct Bureau, energized the Code of Conduct for Public Officers. All this in an attempt to create a moral reorientation for the people of Nigeria.
Because why I haven't said anything in a fair bit is that you've actually launched into what would have been my next question, which would have been your personal assessment of progress on the fight against corruption that President Buhari actually came on board for the first time with. And really, as you can see, some of the things you've been saying are relating to that.
Yes, we're on course.
So that's what you think?
No, I know, we're very much on course. Because I've just told you the programs of activities that the various anti-corruption agencies of government, such as the ICPC, such as the Code of Conduct Bureau, have been embarked upon.
Yes.
But more importantly is that when people talk about corruption, it's not necessarily, Mr. Fulani giving Lai Mohammed money to do something. No. A lot of corruption comes when the system is opaque. It's not transparent. That is why we were able to identify that 40% of the scoring methodology is around the ease of doing business. And unless you attack that, address that, you will also be scoring low. That is why we embarked on port reforms. Port reforms are very important. It will be slow, but when we achieve it, it will help in our ratings.
Okay. There haven't been too many prosecutions. It's not as if there haven't been any, but people thought that because of the magnitude of the problem, which, as you know, every Nigerian knows, it was even part of the whole manifesto that we would not care whose ox was God, we were going to confront this head on. My suggestion is that perhaps we could have seen a few more prosecutions, at least. Let them have their day in court, even if they don't get convictions.
You see,
let it be open.
You see, Mr. Frank, in addition to these preventive measures, building integrity systems, we have not halted the prosecution of high-profile Nigerians who are involved in fraud. We've not stopped. Of course, some of this is not what you can, really say on air. Because as I speak today, I have various libel cases against me. But I know that we have not stopped. But I think our approach is that we should not focus all our attention on the high-profile cases. Corruption, it's something that's a bit systemic. And that is why we are taking that approach from the very beginning. For instance, I realized that we did organize, ICPC organized essays for secondary school students, for the youth, and last year, some of them were giving their prizes at the State House just to encourage and inculcate in the young Nigerians the values of being honest and being upright. Now, it will take quite a while, but you see, we also are interrogating certain discrepancies and certain certain basis for our scoring, because we noticed that for some indices, we've remained, for the last 10 years, there's been no decline, no fluctuation, and no improvement. And we believe that that might be due to the fact that the proper data is not being furnished. Because given the fact that in the last 10 years, the structure of government has changed, the size of government has changed, policy has changed, these variables should not be the same. We suspect that there have probably been some transposition, which we're all working towards. But let Nigerians rest assured that the fight against corruption is very much on. We're on course, and very soon we begin to see the results.
No, okay. You talked about data there, and that reminded me, I didn't even know I was going to ask you this, but there seemed to be an effort of government to register us, because there are different kinds of registrations. I'm talking now about telephones that must be linked to the national identification numbers. That policy, I don't, it looks very, very good, but it didn't seem that those who were in charge understood the nature of the problem, because it became a mess. It became a mess, quite frankly. In this COVID time, you no doubt saw reports of people converging in very, very, in the kind of numbers that we shouldn't be seeing in the kind of pandemic that we have. Ultimately, government or its functionaries came up with another idea. But, okay, you know what? We don't want all these crowds all over the place. I think it is NIMC itself that said, now telcos are allowed to participate in the exercise. I can understand how that will ease the thing a bit, and why didn't they think about it before? But there are also those who are speaking up and saying that these telcos are not all Nigerians, and you're putting such sensitive data at their disposal. How would you sort of comment on that area?
You see, for me, the most important thing is for government to be so flexible and adaptable. And the fact that we realize that given the COVID-19, given the spike COVID-19, infections, it's safer for telcos, telecom companies, to handle registration. To me, is the most important thing, because that is.
But they didn't know that from the beginning.
Look, Mr. Polari, you have a good idea. And then somehow along the line, you realize that you must improve on the implementation. And that you have the courage to admit that is the hallmark of good governance. I don't think we should be dwelling on why you do make a mistake. No. It's just like the handling of pandemic, even in most developed parts of the world. Sometimes you learn.
Yeah, you do.
Because you do.
But one would have thought. Well, I hear what you're saying. That is, don't be harping on it. But it's just that it's an indication of perhaps other equally as important things that might not have been well thought through before launch. And
such as
no, well, if this has come out, my fear is that my personal fear is that, are there other ones like this now?
No, that's I'm asking you, such as what?
It hasn't come to light yet.
Yes, okay, when it comes to light, we'll discuss it.
Okay, let's cross that bridge when we get there. Let me move on to the service chiefs, because I'm just touching on security, under security. The service chiefs were replaced.
Yes.
Just coming into the president. Although, by the way, I think that there was some sort of commentary. All of those former service chiefs have been sent to their names have been forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration as non-diplomatic,
non-career ambassadors.
Non-career ambassadors.
Yes.
I guess that shuts up anybody who's going to be saying that they were fired with ignominy or all of that. But again, I need to have your input in why did it take this long? Why did it take this long? It should have been 2 years ago. If we are equally as concerned about security as the president and ordinary everybody walking the street, everybody was saying it, and now you've come and done what everybody was saying. You finally done it.
Mr. Folari.
Yes, sir.
Not all of us are commander-in-chief. Not all of us have access to security brief. Mr. President is commander-in-chief. He knows many things that are not in the public domain. He receives frequent briefings. There's no need trying to second-guess him. It's always rosier from the other side. So when Mr. President took that decision, that was the best time in his own understanding, in his analysis and assessment of information, facts, not at your disposal or in the public space. So, and I think
but the president doesn't work alone. He has advisors all around him.
Precisely that.
He has advisors all around him.
It is those advisors that would brief him. But you advisors will brief you, and then you now look at the advice they've given you, and you balance it.
Take the final decision.
Honestly, people will say, oh, you had to be fired 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They are not the commander-in-chief. And of course, the buck stops on his desk. Now, having said that, the new service chiefs have hit the ground running. This is because they are not strangers to the Northeast theater. Neither are they strangers to the myriad of, conflicts, in the country today. The present Chief of Defense Staff was at one time the commander of the Operation Dole Lafia. That Lafia Dole that was, handling the insurgency in the Northeast. Ditto for the new Chief of Army Staff. And even the Chief of Air Staff was at a point in time part of the air component of the conflict. So we believe that with these experiences, and they will be able to build on the great work that their predecessors have done. And I think it's about time that we give, due credit to the efforts of the immediate past, service chiefs. Because when people come to talk about security in Nigeria, from the comfort of studios like this, it amazes me. What was Nigeria pre-2015? What is it today?
In that regard, you said, Alhaji, in the past that there is no part of Nigerian territory that is under Boko Haram. Because you said that, I imagine you would have been quite surprised when the other day in Borno, the Speaker of the House in Borno said that his local government is under the yoke of Boko Haram.
Mr. Folari, I am not here to discuss what I call trivial issues. I'll tell you why I'm saying this.
Okay.
I visited part of the Northeast on the 5th of December 2015 in company of international and local media to have a first-hand assessment of the Boko Haram insurgency. That trip took me from Abuja to Maiduguri. And from Maiduguri, I went by road to Kauri, Konduga, and Bama. Now, the distance between Maiduguri and Bama is about 65, 70 kilometers. We did not meet one single vehicular traffic on the road.
Okay, at that point, I'm going to have to take a break, but I'm going to come back because I know there's more to this.
Right.
So stay with us, please. I'll take a break, and then we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Our guest is Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Honorable Minister of Information of the Federal Republic. And he's been, commenting on quite a number of issues that affect us. He's commented on Transparency International and their rating, commented on Amnesty International so far, accusing Nigeria of covering up aspects of SARS. He's dealt with that. We've looked at the appointment of service chiefs. And in that connection, talking about security, Alhaji had just given me a part of his answer to what we thought was the anomaly, hearing the Speaker of the Borno State House of Assembly saying that his personal local government was squarely in the hands of Boko Haram. And here are the service chiefs converging in Borno State. So, Alhaji, you were commenting on that.
You see, Mr. Falari, what I was saying is that I visited part of the Northeast very early in the administration. So in fact, I was less than 3 weeks old when I undertook this tour with both local and international media. And what we saw, like I said, was that between Maiduguri and Bama, there was absolutely no vehicular traffic. When we got to Bama, there were over 6,000 houses in Bama. Not one was standing. They've all been destroyed by Boko Haram. We saw soldiers.
This was about 6 years ago.
Yes, sir. We saw soldiers on treetops. We saw soldiers on mass. We saw soldiers in trenches. 6 years ago, sir, most part of the Northeast was inaccessible. Schools were closed. There were no hospital services. The roads were closed. More than 6 years ago, sir, Boko Haram was tormenting at least 10 states in the Federation. Plateau, Kano, Kaduna, Suleja, Abuja, Damaturu, Maiduguri. Sir, before 2015, sir, 2010, 2011, 2012, we had no Christmas or New Year without bombings, without killings. Places of worships became like war fronts. Bombings in markets and motor parks were daily occurrences. Even the federal capital, Abuja, was not spared. You all recall the United Nations headquarters was bombed by Boko Haram with a lot of casualty. The police headquarters, Yanya Park twice. This day, headquarters. Now, so when you look at that and you look at today, you can't start telling me that the situation is worse in 2021 than 2015. And I think it's about time that we stop sniping about our military.
He was just making the statement that his local government...
Excuse me. Like I said, I'm not going to...
Boko Haram has not been dislodged.
You see, I'm not going to second guess the defense chiefs. Now, but you see, I'm saying that it's about time we stop ridiculing our military. It's about time we start humiliating them. But for the sacrifices they are making, many of us will not be in this studio.
Yes, I agreed.
Yeah, so when you take a situation out of context, we're talking about situation of security today and yesterday. And I say with all sense of responsibility that we are better off today.
Generally.
We are better off today.
We are better off,
yes,
generally speaking. But that singular local government, he says, is not liberated.
Mr. Folari.
No, he was saying it in public
Folari,
space.
I'm not going. If anybody thinks that his local government is not liberated or is occupied by Boko, he should go and meet the military authorities.
Okay.
And lay the complaints before them. I'm not going to say more than that, but I'm not going to second guess my service chiefs. I would continue to encourage them. I would not humiliate them. And I want to call on Nigerians to do this everywhere in the world. Soldiers are our heroes.
No, I think most Nigerians hold our boys in uniform in high regard.
I think
our men and women in uniform.
I think we should extend that to our commentaries. Look, I've just told you the example of what happened in Capitol Hill. Only one policeman was killed in Capitol Hill. It was an insurrection. 37 policemen were killed in Nigeria. They said they were freedom fighters. Please, let's move on.
Okay, but staying within, let me just get rid of one other security question that I had before we go on to health, because COVID-19, we need to talk about that. And I'm talking about the Southwest and, as you know, the whole matter of herdsmen, government reserved forests, and all of that, and some persons, some personalities that have sort of emerged. Is it involved in the midst of all of this? How worried, if at all, government is worried about this phenomenon where someone is speaking and a lot of people, I'm speaking in particular about Sunday Igboho, and a lot of people are, as it were, signing up to him, whether or not they know what they're signing up to. But you just look at social media and you find that a lot of people are feeling that they are being spoken for at long last. What's government's attitude to all of these goings on? I've heard that the president has said that, careful, don't whip up ethnic. Don't whip up ethnic sentiments, but what?
You see, Mr. Polani, I think we should lower the tension. We should bring down the temperature. Nigeria is a big country. It's diverse. We've been living together peacefully for centuries. We must continue to live together peacefully, recognizing each other's rights. And I'm glad that political leaders, national leaders, religious leaders are all coming together to ensure that this matter, not just in the Southwest, but everywhere else, is resolved. You see, we are not going to score any advantage by heating up the polity. Because one of the day, we'll sit down together in this same Nigeria and we'll live together. And I think the governors, national rulers, the religious leaders are all doing their best to ensure that all issues are resolved.
That we have a sort of a state of security, because it is worrying, because it is apparent to all that cattle is destroying farmlands. There doesn't seem to be any resolution. You hear incendiary things being said by both sides. Some people saying that we have a right to go anywhere that we want, we're Nigerians, and so on and so forth. None of which is helpful. And hopefully, people were hopeful that perhaps if there were comment from the very top as to absolutely not, but people say no, they're not getting such vibes. And so they feel, rightly or wrongly, very much left to their own devices.
You see, comments are not what is important. It's what are the steps government is taking. And I can assure that a lot of back-channel approach to resolve these issues. Government doesn't just
back channel that
very,
the public might not be well aware of.
Exactly. You see, there are instances where you even have to employ third parties to create an enabling environment for, two gladiators to meet. It's not unknown. I know that during the rescue operation of the Dapchi girls. I know the role the Red Cross played. So there are a lot of back channel approach that have been taken to ensure that all these flashpoints, all these, crises are tamed. And it's only after you have achieved that you start commenting. Non-state actors can talk. Government acts and reassures.
At this stage, okay, the lines are open. Good morning, Mr. Joshua, calling in from Irewolede.
Uncle Yori, good morning, and good morning to the minister.
Good morning, sir.
Uncle Yori, quickly, I'd like to appeal to the minister to find a way of talking more to the public. I know his time is very, very tight, but this sort of constant education is very necessary at times like this, so that there won't be any gap for mischief makers to do damage to the nation. Presently, I think some people have made up their mind not to see Nigeria as a nation. These are people that you cannot appeal to. They are warmongers. Now, if you give them to have anything to work with, they will unleash damages on you. That is what I see with all these Amnesty International or Transparency International. The government should be able to.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joshua. I got the line went wobbly. But Alaji, what happened to your town hall meetings?
Well, COVID-19 is affecting our town hall meetings. Town hall meetings are those platforms that we had whereby these issues are discussed. But COVID-19 and restriction to 50 people, restriction on traveling. So what we are trying to do is that we are now trying to see whether we can make use of technology in another manner to revive and repackage our town hall meetings.
Because you probably identify with what Mr. Joshua was saying there.
I do. You see, this COVID-19, which we are going to talk about, it has affected not just our livelihoods, our lives, even the way we live, even the way we do things.
Really?
But clearly, we are working with the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy to see how fast we can have a town hall meeting using technology and at the same time respecting the PTF COVID-19 protocol.
Okay, from the UK, Pico, did I get that right? Is it Mr. Pico from London?
Yes, please.
Okay, good morning, sir. Go right ahead. Do you have a comment or question?
Good morning, Uncle Yoli, and I greet Honorable Minister there.
Good morning, sir.
I don't want to burn much of your time. There is a parable which says, when two brothers camped out from a room laughing, they have not told themselves the plain truth. One question I need to ask the minister is this. The minister, by what means did you travel down from Abuja to Lagos?
Okay.
I believe you came by air. You cannot travel by land. This to show the signs of insecurity we are now witnessing in Nigeria. We don't need to disturb ourselves. We are all aware of the predicament the whole citizens are facing. We here in diaspora, we are afraid to come home. The present government, which we voted for, thinking that they are going to eradicate and then address these burning issues of insecurity, because without security, no investment from here can come down to Nigeria. We need to tell ourselves the plain truth.
Okay, but your point, sir, is that you want to come back home, you're afraid to do so because of stories you're reading in the media. And you actually started off by asking how the minister arrived Lagos from Abuja, whether it was by road or by plane. I'm just trying to put all those two things together.
Mr. Paiko, I don't think 10 years ago I used to travel by road, or 20 years ago. I think there's no correlation between the fact that I travel by air from Lagos to Abuja, Abuja to Lagos, and the insecurity. No. Of course, the most efficient manner of transportation today is by air. And again, you see, Mr. Paiko, you can't stay in the in the UK there, and rely on unverified information about the level of security in Nigeria. Yes, we are facing challenges. I admit that. And that's why I gave the situation before 2015 situation today. But we are rising stoutly to the challenges of insecurity. There's nowhere in the world that is secured. Well, there are various stages of insecurity. But all I want to assure Nigerians and the entire world is that this government is alive to its responsibility. We inherited...
As regards
security. Yes. Well, yes, of course.
Even though we are going through challenges now,
look,
communal clashes.
Look, let me tell you, which one did we invent? We inherited all of them. Which one did we invent? You've forgotten that communal clashes even in the 80s under the military happened in Kaduna, happened. So you see, but we're not saying that, because we didn't start it. No, that is the responsibility of government. But what we want people to appreciate is the fact that we are not only rising to the challenge, but we are making success of it.
Okay. Last on security, I just remembered now that newspaper photographs of a respected, Muslim sheikh in the north was seen in what was referred to as the camps of bandits and that kind of a thing. This was given a wide prominence. What was that? What was that? The enemy of Nigeria is our enemy, and so, as I said, he's a respected cleric, but he was meeting with bandits. Was this under special cover, as sometimes happens?
Well, like I explained at the beginning, that when you want to resolve an issue like this, you use a lot of back channel. Again, it's not unusual for a respected cleric to have the confidence of outlaws or bandits. As a matter of fact, they're probably ready to listen to him more than they are ready to listen to government. They're probably ready to believe him more. And so it's not unusual for him to act as a bridge between government and the outlaws in an attempt to find solutions.
So he might well have been working, as it were, on our side.
What I'm sure is that he must be working for peace.
Okay. Mr. John Owode, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
That is to say, Mr. John in Owode.
Yes. Owode, I can say my 12. I'm coming from my 12.
Carry on, please, quickly.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Ayori.
Good morning.
Yes. Yeah, good morning, Mr. Ayori, and good morning, Mr. Minister.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah. All right, fine. My question is to the minister, and this is what happened. They keep referring to 2015, but I can tell you that between 2015, when it took over, or the government took over, the killings in Nigeria were not as much as it is today. Today, every day of this year, there has been one killing or the other. That is number one. Number two, I live in Lagos, and I've been traveling for the past, between 2015, I've traveled to my village over every year, between 2015, but between 2018 till now, I've not been able to go to my place because of insistent the story I hear that kidnappers will kidnap them, and I don't have money to give them. And if you don't have money to give them, they will kill you. And that's why some Nigerians are afraid to travel home. Okay,
so your point, sir, is that the state of security in our country is worse now than 2015. Is that what you're saying? Anyway, that seemed to be what he was saying.
Well,
But
like I said,
since you've been saying...
see, like I said, I don't work with emotion. I trade in facts and figures. And I have the numbers in pre-2015 and today.
Okay. So
it
doesn't stand up what he's saying.
That we're on top of the matter. You see, occasional reversals, when you are fighting an asymmetric war, like we are fighting either it's banditry or it's insurgency, is no basis to condemn all the successes or forgotten successes you have made. And you see, in this fight, the government is adopting both kinetic and non-kinetic. And that's why you see at times, you see at times repentant insurgents who are rehabilitated in society. You see our military also conducting, medical missions. You see our military, helping with schools. You see our military, helping in IDP camps. You see, unfortunately, like I said, most of our commentators have no idea of the humongous sacrifices our gallant soldiers and police are making.
Okay, Alhaji, in closing now, because I've run out of time and everything you've talked about has been so important, I couldn't find a place to just interrupt you. But let's bring in COVID-19 and the rising incidence of it, and the fact that it's complicated now with a mutated strain. So much so that people are even now fearful of whether those that have been vaccinated are actually covered, with this mutated strain. And then two questions in one. I'm a bit unprofessional, but let me do it. This whole matter of when will we get our vaccines in Nigeria?
Okay, let me say, one, there will continue to be rising cases of infection as long as Nigerians have no regard for the COVID-19 protocols,
okay,
such as wearing of face masks in public and wearing them properly to cover their noses and their mouths. As long as we do not obey the law on social gathering, as long as we do not keep to our proper, hygiene. So my advice to Nigerians, please obey the COVID-19 protocol. Fortunately, it has not been made into a law, so people can go to jail now for not wearing their face masks. Two, vaccine.
When will they have? When can we be looking forward to?
You see, we are expecting in February 16 million doses.
This month?
This month, out of the 41 million doses that COVAX promised us. COVAX is the WHO body that is that is trying to ensure that there's equity in the distribution of these vaccines. They've promised to give us 20% of our need. That translates about 42 million doses. We're expecting, 41 million doses. We're expecting 16 million of it. But it's going to be the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, through AU, Harvard is also promising to give us another 41 million doses. I don't know when that is coming. The first 42 million doses from COVAX is free. But the 41 million doses we're expecting from Harvard, we have to pay for it.
Okay.
But one agency understands there's a scramble for these vaccines. And United Nations, WHO, they're all fighting to ensure there's equity and that developed countries do not take all the vaccines. As of today, there's a report that 90% of available vaccines have been cornered by just 10 developed countries. So, so that's why we need to also talk about vaccine hesitancy.
Yes,
Nigerians
very quickly, please.
Must please disabuse their minds. We will not bring into the country any vaccine that is not safe or efficacious. And I'm glad that we have enlisted support of international rulers, religious leaders. We've met with CAN, we've met with the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, we've met with National Council of International Rulers, so that people will accept
Okay.
these vaccines.
Quite frankly, Alaji, we're going to have to leave it there. But I want to thank you very much.
Thank
As
you.
always, when you come, we wish we had more time. So you've got to come again, and it shouldn't be as long, a gap as between the last time and now. Thank you very
but
much.
you know what happened.
I do.
Thank
I
you
do.
very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Honorable
you.
Minister
Thank you, sir.
Alaji Lai Mohammed. That's our program today. As you heard here from the minister himself, COVID-19, all those protocols, correct social distancing, mask wearing, frequent washing of the hands. Please keep all those things up.
Parties.
Exactly, and don't be in crowds, So that's our program. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.